Hues of purple, red, and orange painted the sky as the sun dipped below the lake horizon. Jesus and his disciples had just finished a full day of ministry with crowds numbering in the thousands. After the last few people had dispersed, Jesus dispersed his disciples to the boat sitting on shore. He would then go up on a mountainside to pray and rest in solitude with his Father. The disciples slid their boat into the waters, so at rest, so calm, it appears as if you could walk right on the surface of it. Jesus made his way up onto the mountain and looked up into the sky. The stars were peeking through, the moon was high, and he began talking with his Father. By the fourth watch of the night, Jesus had finished his prayers, and he was ready to join his disciples on the lake. But there was only one problem. A slight breeze had picked up over the lake and pushed the boat a considerable distance off the shoreline. So as Jesus did, took matters into his own hands and stepped onto the lake, one after another, his foot continuously walking on the surface of the water straight to his disciples. And as he approached, at this time, there was a blanket of fog that had covered the lake. And approaching, the disciples looked out and saw a silhouette of a man. And they said, "Look, it's a ghost!" And immediately Jesus said, "Take courage, it is I. I'm Jesus." Peter immediately rose from the boat and said, "Lord, if it is you, tell me to come to you on the water." Jesus responded with one simple word: "Come." So Peter braced himself on the side of the boat, stepped out on the water, and he started walking towards Jesus, just like Jesus was walking on the water miraculously. But like any good story, there was an opposition. That slight breeze turned into a severe gust and pushed Peter back in fear, and he began to sink. He cried out, "Lord, save me!" And Jesus immediately reached his hand in the water, pulled him up. And he looked him in the eyes, gripping his soaking wet cloak. And as tears began to swell in the eyes of Peter, trying to muster up a response, Jesus just said, "Why did you ever doubt? Why did you ever doubt, Peter?" And so Jesus took him and set him right into the boat again. And he joined him. Jesus joined his other disciples. And his other disciples looked at him as if they really had seen a ghost. And they said, "Truly, this is the Son of God." I love a good story. And over the next few months here at Cross, Pastor Eric and Pastor Matt are going to be leading us through a new series titled His Story. And they will be diving in deeper and detailing stories from Genesis and creation all the way to Revelation. And so tonight, what I want to be able to do with you is dive deeper into your story and see how his story connects. And I want to do that with the elements of this story here in Matthew 14, starting with verse 26. Verse 26, when the disciples saw him walking on the lake, they were terrified. "It's a ghost," they said, and cried out in fear. But Jesus immediately said to them, "Take courage, it is I. Don't be afraid." Verse 28, "Lord, if it's you," Peter replied, and I'm going to stop right there because there's already a huge shift in this story. Peter separates himself from the rest of the disciples. We see the first character in this story that's not, other than Jesus, that's not a general collective term. And there's a reason why Peter separates himself, because he says, "Lord, I think it's you. I'm not really sure because the fog there is, I can only see your silhouette." And so he says, "Lord, if it's you, because I know that voice and I've seen that silhouette. I've seen the form of that man. Lord, if it's you." And I just want to point out another, excuse my inner geek here. There's this thing right there at the end of "you," and that's called a comma. Now, this comma actually holds a lot of weight in this story because it's almost like he's saying, Lord, if it's you, Lord, if it's you that is in the fog. Peter recognizes him. Peter knows him from the time that he spent with him, the relationship that he's formed. Lord, if it's you, comma. Lord, if it's you that's stirring inside of me to become a part of your story, comma. Lord, if it's you that's telling me to fix my broken relationships, comma. Lord, if it's you that is telling me to take my ministry to the next level, comma. Lord, if it's you that's telling me to break free of my sin, comma, then tell me to come to you on the water. Verse 28, Lord, if it's you, Peter replied, tell me to come to you on the water. Tell me to come to you. Tell me to join you. So my first question here tonight, have you asked Jesus to tell him to bring you into the water with him? Have you asked him that? Have you felt that stirring inside you? Here at Cross, we like to ask, how is Jesus messing with you? How is Jesus messing with you to the point where I can't deny the stirring that's going on inside of me? I can't deny, and the only response for me is to say, tell me to get out on that water. Get me out of this boat. Verse 29. His response is simple. Come, he said. Now when Pastor Eric and I met up about this, and we discussed a little bit about this. See, with Eric and I, we've formed a really good relationship over the years. He's been a fantastic mentor for me. And when we get together, he has a very methodical, sciencey, analytical mind. He studied biology in school, so he has a lot of science background. And so when I come in, I'm more like creativity, artistic. And so when we mash together, it's like this eccentric explosion of excellence, and it's fantastic because we challenge each other so well. And he said, Grant, I want you to understand, Jesus is always calling us out. He's always calling us out, whether he's legitimately calling us out, or it's that emptiness that we keep pursuing, and it's that sin that we keep pursuing, and it's that dissatisfaction that just sits and rots away in here, and it eats at us, and we're like, okay, this definitely is not where I'm supposed to be. And he said, that's still Jesus calling you, because you have a longing for him. And I said, I like that. I really like that. And I'm like, okay, so if that's the case, how come I'm not listening? How come I don't hear that word come? It's a very simple word, but why don't I hear it? And I challenged him with that. I said, that may be the case, and I love that about Jesus, but I'm not always listening. And even if I am listening, I'm not speaking the same language he is. He may be speaking in grace and love, and I'm speaking in sin and shame. It's not the same language. Verse 30. The end of verse 29. Then Peter got down out of the boat, walked on the water, and came towards Jesus. Peter, that's pretty quick. It sounds like Peter doesn't really have much of a hesitation here. It goes from come, he said, then Peter got down. It's like 3 seconds in between. If you ask me, I don't move as quick as Peter. So I'm going to show you what it probably would look like. This is my Jesus voice. Oh, you mean now? You mean like right now? Okay, he's not messing around. Hey, disciple homies, Jesus not playing any games. Can we anchor the boat? Yeah, let's anchor the boat. Yeah, definitely. Give me the floaties. The one with Nemo on them. Yeah, give me the floaties. No, Nemo float. Give them to me. Here, hold my phone. I don't want it to get wet. Yeah, give me my lawyer is on speed dial just in case he wants to pull any funny business. Yeah, anchor the boat, good. Okay, that moon's really bright. I got pale skin. Can you give me that sunscreen? Yeah, here we go. How many hold-ons, not yets, do we give Jesus? If you're asking me, Peter's the role model. When Jesus said come, he didn't say, well, can I bring a few friends? Can I bring a witness? No? Okay, just me? All right. Jesus asked us to come as we are. Come as we are. So then Peter got down on the boat, walked on the water, and came toward Jesus. He gets down out of the boat. Verse 30. But when he saw the wind, he was afraid. Now let me go back to the end of verse 29. What's your boat? What's keeping you from joining Jesus in the water? What's in the boat? What is your boat? Is it fear? Is it comfort? Your boat may look more like a yacht or a cruise ship. And you got your feet up and you got your little fruity drink with the umbrella in it. You're just chilling. Is it insignificance? Nah, Jesus, could you please just pick somebody else? My story's not even that good. I'm not even that, just pick somebody else. Is it shame? Is it that one sin that you keep doing, that you know, that's got you convinced? Jesus can't save this one. He can't save me. He can't forgive this one. Can I tell you my story? Mine was shame. At age 8, I was exposed to pornographic material. And after that initial exposure, I went on an unrelenting pursuit of sexual images and videos. By the time I was in 8th grade, I was 13 years old, I found myself in an addiction to pornography. 13 years old, found myself in an addiction. An addiction that convinced me as long as I stayed silent, as long as I was isolated, I wasn't doing anything wrong. As long as I stayed in the corner of my room, no one was going to get hurt. An addiction that perverted the way I looked at humans. An addiction that convinced me that what I was doing was okay because it was for my satisfaction and that was it. An addiction that ruined more relationships than I like to admit. An addiction that took time away from family and friends. An addiction that sucked me into isolation, whispered convincingly that what I was doing was okay, and then spit me back out into the same shameful cycle to do it all over again. An addiction that convinced me that not even Jesus could save me from this darkness. But Jesus had the same response that he did to Peter. When I called out to him, he said, "Come. Come as you are. Bring your addiction with you. Get out of the boat." Because there was this stirring inside of me that I'm like, I don't want to be this way for the rest of my life. I don't want to be a nameless disciple sitting in the back of the boat. I want to be Peter. I want to be someone that is walking on the water in the presence of Jesus. I want to be with the power of Jesus. I don't want to be here in this shame anymore. And there was something stirring inside of me that was just saying, come forward. Get out. And so I did. And as I was walking on the water towards Jesus, and as I was really trying to understand what this new life in Jesus looked like, he began to reveal to me how he wanted this story that I have to be shared. He said, I want you to write, and I want you to speak. I said, okay, let's go do it then. As long as, and I kept walking, but like any good story, like I said earlier, there's an opposition. Like any good story, there's conflict. But when he saw the wind, he was afraid. What's your wind? What does your wind look like? Many times, it's the same thing. The same reasons you got out of the boat, it comes back. Smacks you in the face in the form of wind. So those fears, those doubts, those feelings of insignificance, the guilt, the shame, it all comes back in the form of wind. And my shame hit me harder than it ever did before. I remember it specifically. was a late October night, 2013, and I had just been understanding this new life in Jesus and what this looks like and pursuing that calling that he had put on my life. And I'd slipped back into the temptation of addiction. I'd slipped back into my pornographic addiction. And it just ripped through like a tornado. Ripped through my soul this time. And I remember coming out of my room. It was about 3 o'clock in the morning. I went into the kitchen. And I remember this specifically because it was at about 3 a.m. in our house, at the Reilly Muller household, we have this window in the kitchen, and when there's a full moon, it shines right through there and lights up the whole kitchen. And I remember standing there like I was in a spotlight. And I just remember feeling like all eyes were on me. Everything that was in heaven, God's eyes were just on me. And I'm like, God, I can't do this. I can't do this. And I remember opening up a drawer, trying to find the sharpest knife I could. And I said, God, I can't do this. I said, you got to find somebody else. Verse 31. And beginning to sink, cried out, Lord, save me. I remember running the knife up and down my arms, contemplating suicide. I said, you got to find somebody else. I clearly can't do this. Save me. Can you please find somebody else to do this? Obviously, I'm not the right guy. Save me. The only way that I can defeat this addiction is if I just end it. Save me. Can you please just leave me alone and just go choose someone else because I'm not cut out for this? Lord, save me. And I remember it specifically. And once I said, God, I'm just done, he reached down, just like Peter, reached his arm down. Verse 31? Immediately Jesus reached out and caught his hand. You of little faith, he said, why did you doubt? And that was the same thing that happened to me. I swear, his voice cut through my core, cut through my heart, cut through my mind so convincingly and so sharp. I swear he was right there saying it in my ear. He said, where's your belief, Grant? I'm not done yet. Your story is not done. I'm not done writing it. Can you hold on? And I remember sliding the knife back into my drawer, or into the kitchen drawer, and walked back into my room and just collapsed onto the bed, cried myself to sleep. Have you asked Jesus to save you? Have you come to the point where you know that you need saving? Do you even know? Should I even dare go even deeper and say, do you even know that you're sinking? That's how far deep you are. Kind of like I was talking with Eric. He may be calling me out, but I'm not speaking the same language. I don't even know that I need saving. Verse 31. Reached out his hand and caught him. Go back. Reached out his hand and caught him. That grace of Jesus right there. The word immediately is used twice in this story. Here and back when he was talking to the disciples thinking that he was a ghost. It appears twice in response to fear, and again in response to fear and doubt. Jesus' grace is immediate. This isn't 3 business days to get there. This isn't, this is faster than Amazon Prime. This is faster than Freaky Fast Jimmy John's. This is immediate cleansing of the heart. His love is immediate, his peace is immediate, his joy is immediate, his grace is immediate. Now, personally, I believe Jesus calls us out simply to save us. He knows we can't survive in his realms without him. I think he calls us out simply so that he can save us. He wants to show us, hey, you can't do this on your own. If you want me to write your story, I have to be the one to write it. You want to be a part of it? I'm writing it. I can't write it. Only Jesus can. He will literally bridge that gap. He will literally reach out his arms, just like he did on the cross. Literally reached out his arms and caught him. Now, this might be a kick in the teeth to some of you, but some of you may think you walk on water. And I encourage you, I challenge you to look down and see how deep that water is. You're probably just walking over a puddle. Because if you think that your talent, your ideas, your whatever it may be, can carry you throughout this life, it can't. Maybe I should reword that. It can, but it's not going to be that significant if it were with Jesus. See, I don't think God calls us to where we will be successful. I personally think he calls us to where he's going to be successful through us and within us. He's going to call us to places where he's going to radiate the most, where his joy will radiate the most, his grace is going to radiate the most. That's where he calls us. It's not where we want to go. It's where he's going to radiate the most through us. And he does all of this with one goal in mind, just one thing in mind. Verse 32. And when they climbed onto the boat, the wind died down. Then those who were in the boat worshipped him, saying, "Truly, you are the Son of God." Just one phrase, that's it. Just right there. Truly, you are the Son of God. Worship him, praise him. Everything points to him. Is it really that easy? Is that really all he wants? I believe it is. So what chapter are you in? If I'm being completely honest, I go through each and every chapter just about every day. I may start out the day with that stirring. I'm like, ooh, it's a new day. Do I want to give it to Jesus? No, I kind of want to do it myself. There's days when I end up dangling my feet on the side of the boat, talking myself in and out. No, I don't want to do it today. There's days when I'm pleading for Jesus to pick me back up out of the water. There's days when I encounter the wind. There's days when I really am walking on water and I'm really in tune with where Jesus wants me. There's days when I'm submerged in my fears. There's days when I'm submerged in my doubts. But no matter what chapter you're in, it all points to one common factor. Truly, this is the Son of God, the Savior of my life, the author of my story, the Son of Man. So here's my final question. Are you willing to go through each and every chapter just for that one phrase to be proclaimed? So that the whole world would know that. Are you willing to be one person that's willing to do that? Our prayer here and everywhere is that more people would be willing. because it's the greatest story ever written, and it's the greatest story ever told. And the invitation is open for everyone to join, because he truly is the Son of God. Brothers and sisters, welcome to his story.